I think AI is going to like make rendering much more efficient. You'll be able to present 20 different ideas to your client instead of just two. I think it'll speed up a lot of the process. But I do think at the end of the day, it's another human's like taste and like kind of concept that, that will always be valuable.
Shit's about to go down.
I'm feeling something in my spirit.
Chats and Tatts with Aaron, Della, Vedova.
Welcome, lovers of art, creativity, tattoos, philosophy, spirituality. I mean, if you're listening to my show, you're probably into at least one of those or all of those. And as you guys know, I get all kinds of folks on the show, and a lot of them are artists, and quite a few are tattoo artists. And so that's rad. I'm a tattoo artist, so why wouldn't I want to do that? But some stand out much more than others, and some for me it's their portfolio, man. Just the work they've created as craftsmen, as tattooers. It's just the shining emblem of what they are. Maybe they're quiet and shy, so you don't know much else about them. The gentleman I'm with today has a few layers to him that I believe are wildly interesting. He is a tattoo artist of 28 years, so we're from the same generation. We kind of started in that same era. Some of the folks I talk to are 10-year tattooers. They just don't understand what it was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. I like that. So he's worked in the street shop levels all the way up to honing himself into a very distinctive voice, which is a really hard thing to do nowadays with so many people on Instagram and everyone's copying each other's work or emulating each other's work. And so to have a portfolio where you're like, that's definitely, I know who did that tattoo. He's got that going on. He's got his own podcast. He's tattooed a lot of celebrities: Marc Jacobs, Johnny Depp, Jennifer Aniston. Hell, he's tattooed cartel members, leaders of nations, which we'll see if he's willing to talk about that one. That's a little, VIP style stuff. So he was the owner of Save Tattoo, New York City, for a long time, 2003 to 2020. He has, since COVID happened, he moved back out here to Los Angeles, and he has Saved LA now here in Los Angeles. So those are just some basic highlights. With all that being said, please welcome my guest today, Scott Campbell.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It just worked out. We're up here for the Pasadena convention. I am, at least. And I told you the story. Somebody knew somebody that knew you and texted you like yesterday, and you're here.
I was like, great. Yeah, I'm thrilled. No, I mean, I love your show. You know what I mean? Like, you always have such a thoughtful approach to everything. And I'm thrilled to sit down with you.
Thank you for the compliment. And yours as well. One of the things I told you on the way up the elevator to come up here today was, I could tell by listening to your podcast and other videos I found on YouTube, you're looking for what the real cause of things are. You're not a surface thinker. You're digging underneath that to try to figure stuff out. Relationships, emotions, the art of tattooing, the industry of tattooing, all the things I heard you talk about. So that's kind of me too. Like, I'm fine sitting here and just doing a play-by-play of your career. And that's cool, but I'm always doing this other thing.
That's what Wikipedia is for.
Yeah. And I heard you doing it. So I'm like, that guy, I definitely want to sit down with Scott. And it didn't know it'd be now, but here we are. So cheers to that.
Great.
Hey, everybody, just want to take a moment and give a huge shout out to my sponsor, Sullen Clothing. If you're a fan of tattoo art and art in general, they make some of the coolest t-shirts, hoodies, and hats with some of the best art from some of the best tattoo artists in the world. Check them out, sullenclothing.com. Ryan, Jeremy, good friends of mine, thank you for your support. And now back to the show. I do want to get deep, as I just said, but maybe it would be fun for me and everyone listening just to hear a little bit about how you got where you're at. I mean, we're tattooers, unusual thing to be, very uncommon thing to be as an artist, maybe getting more common, but still a bit oblique. So maybe we could just hear a little, bring us to your journey. You're a young man and stuff's happening, and somehow you end up in art and tattooing, and now you're here in LA doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I happened to bond tattooing like most tattooers did, where it just didn't fit in the world. And I feel like tattooing is kind of like this big metaphor for the misfit table at the high school lunchroom, where you're like, I don't know, I don't fit in with the jocks, I don't fit in with the preps, I don't fit in with all these, but like, there's just one table of miscellaneous, and I feel like tattooers are kind of just the miscellaneous people that, found their way here. But yeah, I was, in the 90s.
Probably why you call your shop Saved?
Yeah, well, we were like saved from having to have real jobs.
Okay,
that's where it came from. Yeah. But yeah, in the 90s, I was just a little grimy punk rock kid, and, would make my burrito money from, painting leather jackets. Like everybody, all the punks little like battle jackets, I do the little like whiteout, Motorhead logo or whatever on the back. And then from painting jean jackets and leather jackets, just ended up carving pictures in people's arms and, did it a few times and then started, charging money for it. And, then swindled my way into a street shop and, found my way from there.
I want to pause you though, because I heard that swindling story. You said it somewhere else. It was that you had done 6 or 7 or 8 tattoos. You've done more, but you picked the 6 or 7, 8 that were your best. And you knew getting a job or of any kind was tough with that level of work and portfolio. So you walked in and told the guy you were a full-fledged professional tattooer, but the airline lost your luck.
Years I've been tattooing in Texas, in Houston, Texas, at this shop that nobody's ever heard of. But yeah, the airline lost my luggage. All I had on my camera was the last 7 tattoos I did. And here's those photos. Like, are you looking for anybody? And, I don't know if they believe me or not, but I got the job. So, yeah. So it worked.
I mean, I just like that part of tattooing. There's a little bit of pirate gypsy vibes always flowing through it.
For sure.
It's kind of cool.
No, I mean, it's definitely like a scrappy, like I remember at that time, I got a tattoo machine. I had been getting tattooed by Juan Puente.
I worked with Juan for a lot of years.
Juan's one of the best humans. I mean, hands out, you will not find anyone in the world that has a negative thing to say about Juan Puente. I got to stop you there
because I haven't had a chance to give him a great compliment, and I want to do it right now. Juan Puente, if you ever hear this, and maybe I'll just send you a clip of it, but I started working at Avalon Tattoo in San Diego. Juan was there, and Juan was one of the people who was really in it. He knew how to wind coils. He knew how to build machines.
Oh, dude, his machines were sorcery.
They're still great.
Yeah, they're amazing.
You had one? Oh,
yeah.
And but really, the biggest thing was when he left Avalon, he told the owner, Patty Kelly, if anyone calls for me, you send him to Aaron. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of and all of a sudden I was busy. It was all of Juan's clients. So I kind of like, dude, a huge thank you. It was a launch for me. But he's an amazing dude.
He told me, I had like a couple national machines that I got out of the back of, the national catalog. But my first real tattoo machine I got from him. That was like my big purchase when he was at 222, and that like
with Eddie Deutsch.
Yeah. Like when Juan.
Were you at their grand opening party?
God, I wasn't at their opening party.
Because I was there. Maybe we hung out.
Yeah. No, I got to San Francisco a little bit. God, a little bit after that. I landed in San Francisco in like 98, 99. But I got tattooed by all those guys, by Rasher and Sylvia and all of them.
The San Fran crew.
Yeah. I mean, that was the Mecca. That was like, if you wanted
Crime and everybody, and Marcus Pacheco.
If you could tattoo in San Francisco, then like you were somebody.
Yeah. I was scared of that place. I ran to San Diego. Like, I'll be the big fish in a smaller pond.
Yeah. No, it was a very small fish in a really big pond. But Juan, he sold me my first real machine. He's always been like just a guiding light, just morally, artistically, technically. Like he's one of the greats.
He is. So we were going down this journey. Is there any more to it? I mean, you kind of covered it.
I mean, there's been so many chapters. So I started tattooing, and that was when, like, I remember starting tattooing and all I wanted to do, like my life's ambition was just to do a decent Tweety bird for $60. I was like, if I can just do one little Tweety bird or Tasmanian devil a day, I can live off that. I can survive. And I wanted to do the cleanest fucking Tweety bird I could, and from there, just fell in love with it. I mean, like it was late 90s, like street shop culture, just like making your own needles till 3 a.m. and dealing with drunks but I loved it. You know what I mean? It was like the most free I've ever felt. And then, from there, I got to travel, like from Picture Machine, I met Mao and Kathy who were in Madrid and went and worked with them for a while. And, then would just travel all around anywhere that would accept me, I'd go work. And then I landed in New York at Eastside Inc. back in the day when Andrea Elston was still there. And that was like, I didn't realize what a city was until I landed in New York. Like I was resigned to just be this wandering gypsy kid forever. And then I landed in New York and I was like, oh, this is a place where you can sit still, but still feel like you're moving, because it's such a river of humanity, and just fell in love with it. And then, ended up opening up a shop. And then once I opened a shop, that's when it turned into like a career. All of a sudden people knew where to find me. I started, tattooing all of these like really, powerful creatives in downtown New York at a moment when New York was like the center of the world. I didn't even realize it. then did a lot of like fine art work, was really kind of focused on doing fine art. And that was a wild kind of transition. Yeah. And then kind of crescendoed into whatever my life is now.
But tattooing stuck with you.
Tattooing's it.
You're bouncing all over the place, but tattooing stuck.
Tattooing is it. I mean, like most people who have done it so long, like I've tried to quit tattooing 10 times, but it's my hands know how to do that better than anything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 28 years of practice will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And I know we're there's a lot of crazy stories wrapped up in there, I'm sure, along the way. Same story. You just told my story. We could just, I could say that's my story.
Yeah.
Similar. I mean, different. I guess I settled down. You traveled a lot more. That's different for me.
Yeah.
And we'll get into what tattoo means to me and you, mostly you today. But once you really start to feel that, it takes a few years for you start sensing this deeper level of something happening. And then a few years later, you start recognizing it and being able to even articulate it. And now for me, after 30 years, I still don't fully grasp it, but I'm, for me, 100% convinced, extremely beautiful and powerful art form. And I don't think I could replace it with painting hey, look, you're a painter. Crayola is one of my best buds. You're rad. Yeah. I'm not saying tattooing is better than painting, but for us, I think we felt that and we still feel that. And so here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot to say about it. I mean, I love tattooing. I feel like it's one of the last real like folk arts, like it's beautiful for its like intimacy and its spontaneity and, the kind of the fact that it can't be mass produced, but at the same time, like the things that make it beautiful can make it frustrating to build a life around it. Like you see our cultural relevance, like tattooing culturally is like so, like on Instagram, like even, people with no tattoos in Ohio, follow tattoo accounts, because it's so engaging and romantic. But we work like plumbers and electricians, we just like sell our life by the hour. It's not like, a singer or a songwriter, or a painter who will write a song, create an image, and then that song will like live a life, and they'll be like, oh, they're going to make royalties off of that. Like the bigger the cultural relevance of that song, the more revenue they make. Whereas us, it's like, it took 3 hours. Like you would never go to a songwriter and be like, oh, like how long did it take you, to write that song? And it's like, I wrote it, 2 hours on an airplane or sitting on the toilet. And like, cool, here's 2 hours of your time. Like now we're going to, it's interesting seeing like how culturally powerful we are, but the ceiling is still pretty low compared to other creative mediums.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I sometimes refer to it as a craft, because I feel like it's like a craft. Like you don't meet many people, craftsmen in general, that are living the life of a famous painter or musician or actor.
Yeah. When I say folk art, like I don't mean it dismissively. I mean that with like a sense of honor, because there's like a purity to it that like the fact that tattoos don't have resale value makes it pure, like if I do paintings or sculptures that sell, like I'm like worried about like what happens if they go to auction and the resale value. There's all this pressure on it that can limit it. Whereas like a tattoo, all that matters is that the person who stands up and like looks at it in the mirror is fucking psyched. Like that's it. But like that's a really like it's the most gratifying thing I do. Like I'll paint a painting and somebody will buy it and I'll be like, oh cool, you bought that. But if I do a tattoo on somebody and they get up and they're like tears in their eyes, they're like, I love it so much. Like that's the best feeling in the world.
You have one fan for that piece of art for life, for their life.
But man, they are loyal. Yeah.
Okay, you do them right. I mean, why wouldn't you be? It's so personal. A painting, you can sell it or give it away, but that's the obvious stuff.
It's a weird job. It is.
It is a weird job. It is. I love it. Yeah. There's something going on there. Energy exchanges and strange things occur during tattoo sessions. I do a lot of large work. A lot of my clients are back, butt, legs. So 3 years with somebody off and on. And by
that's
the
a
end
relationship.
Dude, you know everything. Like I'm telling them my problems. They're telling me their problems. Yeah. I look back on what was so beautiful about it. And it's really my friends that came out of that. The people I got to meet. I never would have met any of these folks. I probably wouldn't be meeting you today, if it wasn't for it. So that the relationships that came out of it is the thing I like the most. Why I did the show, because I could highlight the relationships that came out of it, right? And portfolio, it's cool. I'm proud of my portfolio, but it seems secondary to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, so on that note, this idea of tattoos and their permanency, and you said it earlier, like everyone talks about the permanency of tattoos, but in relationship to the art world, it's actually not very permanent. Sculptures and paintings and all these other things people make last not forever, nothing maybe lasts forever, but
centuries,
thousands of years.
I mean, I have sculptures in museums that'll be there longer than I'm alive. When people talk about tattoos, they're like, oh, but it's permanent. I was like, it's not. I was like, if you have the ego to think that you're permanent, then you might think that way. But I'm like, I'll do a tattoo and it goes and gets sunburnt or run over by a bus or something. It's pretty ephemeral.
It is. Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. But the thing that I heard you talk about on another podcast, I believe, was you as an artist, as a young artist, this call it OCD, call it perfectionism, whatever was happening for you. This is a common story for a lot of artists. You have an idea in your head, you go to put it on paper, it doesn't ever come out like it's in your head. I mean, good luck with that. And so it's frustrating, you scrap it, and then you never finish anything, right? You're never finishing anything. But this idea around how, as an artist, developing tattooing,
tattooing is my Ritalin. It's for sure. Like,
you have no option. You can't throw it.
Yeah, I for sure was like one of those like ADD kids in the 90s, that they just like fed Ritalin to. And I did, like I had the attention span of a gerbil. Like I would, I'd draw something, I'd start halfway, but it wasn't until I started tattooing that I ever really finished a piece of anything, and because then it's like, we're drawing, I'll get halfway through a dragon and be like, coming out a different way. I didn't mean it to be that way. And then, but if I'm tattooing a dragon, I get halfway and I have that same reaction. There's a guy who's going to knock my teeth out if I don't do a good job. So it's like, I gotta knock this dragon out of the park. So like, I suck it up and be like, like I'm having that internal panic, but I get through it. And by the end of it, I wipe it off and I'm like, it's not exactly what I envisioned, but like, I'm pretty proud of it. I am. And like going through that process 1,000 times, like finally burned it into my head that like, a creative act is a leap of faith. You know what I mean? Like your initial idea is just a place to start. It's very rarely the final product, like that's just what nudges you into motion. And then you gotta just see where it ends up. Yeah.
And you're talking about art, but
everything. Yeah. That could be life. That could be having children. It could be any of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a big one. I think that wads people up a lot. When things aren't going as they visualize them to go. And oftentimes if you're just patient enough, it's probably going somewhere better.
Yeah.
Just ride it, and it's just cool how you struggled in that area. I think in this same talk, I heard you talking about relationships. You would treat a relationship like you would treat a sketch that wasn't going well.
I'm not good at it. Yeah. Like dating's rough. I mean, I love love. We were talking about it a little bit before, but yeah, like I've always been the, like in the tattoo shop, when like Tom and Jenny come in and, Tom's like, oh, I want to get Jenny's name. She's like the love of my life. A lot of times the tattooer will be like, well, wait, are you sure? Like Jenny's the one? How long you guys been together? And there's like a spiel you give them. Like I've always been like the opposite. Whenever you're like, if you love Jenny today, fucking do it. Let's tattoo it. Let's do it bigger. Like whatever we want. And yeah, because I think there's a value in giving yourself to something completely, whether it's a relationship or a work of art, like to develop the ability to dive into something head first, not knowing how it's going to end up is really powerful and like one of the most courageous acts ever. I always celebrate people getting, significant others' names tattooed on them because the odds are fucking stacked against you. Like there's a 99% chance you're not going to live happily ever after. But better to have tried and like really done it than to, be 50 years old and having never really given yourself to anything. Like I got 5 ex-girlfriends' names tattooed on me and I'm proud of every one.
I've got an ex-wife on me.
Yeah.
I felt the same way. I mean, in tattoo shops when I was younger, a tattooer, and everyone's trying to, it was like the spiel everyone got. I was always the guy like, sure, where do you want it?
Yeah, what do you want to do? Yeah.
I thought it was
Jenny sounds lovely.
I thought it was so cool to be a dude with a bunch of ex-girlfriend names on you. I'm like, that's fucking hard. Yeah. Let's do it. If you want a new one next week, we'll put a red line over that one, give you another one. I just didn't see it that same way. And now I think naively enough, I think there was a part of me that was feeling what you just articulated.
Yeah.
The idea of like, look, you're obviously super pumped on this person right now, enough to come in here and ask for the name to be tattooed on you.
I feel honored to be a part of that love. Like that like, honeymoon phase, like exciting. Yeah. Like I just like, you're just like obsessed with this person. Like I feel honored that I get to like put her name on you
and be a part of that experience.
Yeah, like I'm excited too. Tell me how it ends up.
Feel the energy coming off of them. Yeah. It's like, and so for that reason, I was like, let's go. This feels good. You're in a good mood. I can't wait to do it. Versus, there's some tattoos where they're sad and melancholy. You have to do those too. But this was a whole other thing where I'm like, why are we talking people out of these things?
Yeah. In any creative endeavor, caution rarely serves you well.
Well, earlier we were talking about your relationship, the mother of your children. And you said it was a really interesting story, and maybe I should just let you tell it, but I don't even want to say what you guys ended up doing because it's such a novel idea that I've never heard before. So maybe you could just, because I think it relates a little bit back to what you're talking about here, which is, if I could just sum it up before you go, is not only do you have to have enough courage to get that ball rolling and take that leap of faith to try an idea that you don't know if it's going to work out. It could be love, could be a business, could be a drawing. Mm-hmm. You also, most likely at some point, have to learn to accept how it's going or where it goes. Because it's not going to go where you're steering it.
Yeah.
Ever.
You can't force it.
So that's the real courage, which I think when you tell this story, that's what I hear in it. Like, what beautiful courage to just not go into the auto response of this didn't go where we wanted. I hate you. You hate me.
I appreciate that, because I think, it's so easy to have, divorce tainted with a certain amount of guilt, especially when there's kids involved, because you never walk down the aisle being like, expecting to get divorced one day. My ex-wife, Lake Bell, if anybody's looking for an ex-wife, she's the best ex-wife in the world. She's amazing. But, no, it's like, it is that, like we were together for 10 years and there's no part of that I consider a failure. I fully see it as like a successful marriage that ran its course. We first said the D word out loud in 2020 when everybody else was splitting up. And, we had 2 kids at the time. And when we first said the word divorce, I think we both envisioned what that meant to other people and be like, oh, now we're going to be like that family, or now we're going to be like that. Like, fuck, do I have to hate you now? Are we going to fight over everything? But one of the things we did that was so powerful was we had a divorce ceremony. Our therapist that we were working through, we still go to therapy every other week, every other Friday. We still do therapy.
Raising kids together.
Yeah. Just to get stuff out. But we did a divorce ceremony where, it was just the bookend to us getting married. And, we had our witnesses there, our best friends there. And, we sat there and held hands and looked in our eye and just be like, our lives are inextricably connected through our children. And that is the priority in my life. And I was like, when you're on your deathbed, I will be there. There's no part of this next chapter that doesn't consider you, and the feeling was mutual. And I'm so grateful for it. It's really, it took a lot of time and patience and energy, but I really feel it in our kids, I would never say anything bad about their mother and she would never say anything bad at me. Cause my kids need to feel like they have the greatest mother in the world, and it's super important for me. And, even if you reduce it to basic math, it's my daughter's, 10 years old, she's turning 10 next month. So when she's 18, from what I know of her now, she's going to be out the door living in New York, the moment she can. Mm-hmm. But, from 10 to 18, that's 8 Christmases, I get with her at home. And if mom and I can kind of coexist and collaborate and have all those together, I get to be a part of all 8 of them. Mm. And if we can't, if we have to split everything down the middle and then I only get 4 more Christmases with my daughter. And I'll do anything to get all 8,
Beautiful, dude. Anyone out there, if you're going through that divorce, a divorce ceremony, redefine what the relationship will be after you guys aren't romantically involved anymore, because there's so much more, especially if there's kids. Maybe without kids.
If you don't have kids, you're just breaking up with a girlfriend. That doesn't really count. That's just paperwork.
It really is about with the children.
Yeah.
Because you are connected for life. And your bullshit, if you can't figure it out, we all know this, but I'd never heard of anyone really consciously articulating what it would look like after the divorce and being forgiving enough and kind enough and honoring the first 10 years. It's always baffling to me how someone could love somebody for so long. For years, telling their friends and family, this is the greatest man you'll ever meet.
And then you're like, oh no, they're dead to me.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. The flip there was always so strange.
Yeah.
But if you dug down deep enough, you found that I figured it out. There's resentment because he, I don't know. Maybe sometimes there is a reason not to have a divorce ceremony, right? What I'm hearing from you is I'm assuming there wasn't massive tragedy and trauma between the
Yeah,
two
I mean,
of
I'm
you.
grateful. You like, yeah, there was no foul play. No one was like,
right.
no one, was betrayed. And but even if there is, you know what I mean. Like, we're humans doing the best we can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and even if my ex-wife was a dick, like it's worth. I mean, it's funny because like now, like in dating as a dad, I've gone on dates with single moms who just talk shit about their ex-husband the whole time. And I'm like, you have a little kid here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about you. Like, yeah, he's a dick. Yes, he did you wrong. Like, yes. Do you want to be right or wrong? Or do you want to acknowledge that, like, this is this kid's world that you're curating, and creating? So it's like, what's the emotional environment you want them, to see as their home base? But yeah, I'm really grateful.
Well, not everyone's figured themselves out to that degree.
Also, therapy's expensive. I'm not like it is.
Yeah, therapy helps, whatever. Interesting though. I like that. That was beautiful when you told me that earlier, and I had to bring it up. So sorry to put you on the spot, but I know you sound okay with it.
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, well, and this podcast, Stupid Things for Love.
Yeah,
is it? I've only heard of couple. Is it? Are you trying to grab onto the relation aspect?
I'm not trying to do anything. I mean, it's like a creative act. I'm like, I don't know. I only know step 1. I don't know what step 2 and 3 are. And yeah, the name of it came from a title of an exhibition that I've always really loved, which was the smartest things I ever did were stupid things for love. And I think similarly, to the reason why you're here is that, so much of what our job entails is emotional and connection with humans. But yet the way our craft is broadcast to the world is just through a little photo on Instagram, and you're like, there's so much more. Like, there's so much more beauty and depth to like what I do during my day than just that. And it's this desire to kind of put that out there, because like like we were talking about with clients, like, in order to really do your job, like you have to sit there and connect with people. And if you connect with someone, pretty much anyone for 45 minutes, like you can't help but love them, And I found myself appreciating so many people that I wouldn't have given the time of day if I passed them on the street. Be like, nothing in common with that guy. And then you sit down and you're like, oh my God, like you've lived a really beautiful life, And I would never consider it if you didn't want this rose on your arm,
Yeah.
So just trying to like have that be a bit more of what I put out in the world instead of just the picture at the end.
Yeah. We did talk about it earlier. Same for me. I'm trying to do the same thing because there is so much more to this beautiful art form than just the end result, which is the tattoo. There's all the stuff you already mentioned. This is a good platform to sit down and talk with people. I have some of my clients on, and it's always kind of fun.
Yeah.
Someone you've done a few years with, and we get to have like this moment where we acknowledge each other's love for one another. It's kind of strange. Like, I love you too, man.
Bromance,
yeah, a little bromance, or even if it's a female, it's not sexual. It's just,
you're like, you're so cool. No, you're so cool.
Yeah, no one can deny that there's this we're linked for life, and it's a strange thing. And so, same thing. And at 28 years, I'm sure you're doing a lot of reflection on what it all meant and what it all is, And it's cool you came up with that. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I mean,
keeps me out of pool halls.
Yeah. Well, luckily, it's not too hard. I mean, 15 years ago to fire up a production like I have here sitting in front of you was kind of a big deal. Now it's, you can do it. If you want to do it, do it.
Which it should. I mean, it kind of democratizes the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need more of that. I mean, I don't know if I should go down. I won't go down this, but it's just, we are definitely living in a world where we're physically, everyone heading down to the pub at night to share the ideas with one another is fading. Everyone's on their phone. And so we got to replace it with something. And I do think podcasts and long format conversations are a big help for that.
Yeah.
So people can.
I hope the attention spans can come along with them. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people that I know that listen to like a Joe Rogan episode that's 3.5 hours, it's like me and guys my age but will my 13-year-old daughter be interested in this show that when it goes an hour and a half? I don't know. I watch her on her phone with the freaking screens flipping around. Sometimes I'm like,
yeah.
That's a rabbit hole. You have kids too, and I don't even know if I want to go there. It's just too obvious. Yeah, we don't need those. We all know they don't need them, but how do you get them away, and how do you rip them out of culture? But what I maybe wanted to move more towards, because I found it so novel and interesting, was, a lot of people nowadays are kind of trying to figure out the tattoo landscape because it's shifting, and it's always been shifting, but I think you would agree that the recent shift is dramatic and speeding up or whatever. It's really changing fast.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that bad, because I could name a bunch of good shit and bad, like anything. With change, there's
It's different.
positives and negatives. But you had brought up an idea that was so interesting to me, which is, maybe people just aren't getting as much tattoos because the young people of this generation, maybe they don't identify with their physical form as much because their image to the world is projected through their social media platforms and whatever else. So the need to do your physical form is becoming less.
Yeah. I mean, I see for sure, because it came, I kind of put that little blurb out there because, I hear, so many tattooers, becoming disheartened and frustrated with, this decline in business, that things are slowing down and there's so much anger pointed towards new tattooers, and all the people tattooing out of their kitchen and, ordering tattoo machines on Amazon and, YouTube tutorials showing you how to do tattoos and yeah, that's a bit of it, but also it really is, I think, and maybe having children and seeing the difference between their childhood and my childhood helps highlight this. But I do think people's physical identity isn't as significant as their digital identity anymore. When we got tattooed, it was you'd get a tattoo and you're like, fuck, man, let's go to the bar, you know what I mean? And roll up our sleeves and show it. Yeah, I want credit for this. Whereas now it's you post it on Instagram and
that's where you get your credit.
Yeah, that's where you get your credit. That's your pride of ownership. That's where you get your return on investment. It's showing it off on there. As people live, their digital selves take priority over their physical selves, they might not invest so much time and money and energy into affecting their physical selves. Because, like a Snapchat filter that puts fucking bunny rabbit ears on your head might do the trick instead of having to go get the tattoo. But yeah, I mean, I definitely see that shift, in my kids. I wish I could put that out there with a solution or, some sense of optimism, but I don't know what that means, but I just see things, I see it kind of drifting in that direction.
It makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to reflect. Do I see that too? Maybe I do. I mean, I definitely noticed people seem to, everyone's been slower. I mean, I don't want to brag, but for some reason we're hanging on over at Guru. And I think it's just crazy marketing. And, I fight harder nowadays. 10 years ago, every tattooer in my shop had a 6-month waiting list. And, it wasn't really a concern of mine, marketing or Yelp.
Yeah.
I remember telling everyone, I'll never give a fuck about Yelp. Fuck them. We don't need those people. That's the best part of this game is we don't have to cater or, any of that to those. But times change. I have ad managers and I do a lot in marketing. And I think that keeps us going. But the fact I'm fighting in that way, maybe not fighting, but
you're a special breed. You're not sitting around being resentful to change and brooding and being angry and hoping that the world responds to your anger and stops changing. You know what I mean? You read the room and you're like, oh, okay, cool. If things are drifting there, if seeing who the human is behind the tattoo designs is important, then you put yourself out there and be like, this is the human, this is who I am. And I think it's really powerful. And, part of the reason why, you guys still have the lights on and are doing well is that, you adapt, which not a lot of tattooers from our generation are open to.
Definitely not from our generation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of the newer ones, they don't even ask that question. They just open their shop and they immediately pour money into all this, pumping up ads, and they just know it's something you got to do. But our generation, for sure, there's a lot of people that didn't adapt. So I guess, I am that type of person. And maybe I'm a little unique in that way, but from my age, as a 30-year tattooer, you don't meet a lot of guys that are just, and I've always been that way. I mean, I was the first guy to get a rotary. I was the first guy to get an iPad. I was the first guy. I just finished an AI fusion art piece for a bodysuit show. And, of course I couldn't wait for people to give me shit about it.
And I mean, it's funny. I'm your audience is a lot of tattoo industry, which I don't do any press in the tattoo world. You know what I mean? I'll do Vogue, I'll do Interview Magazine, I'll do New York Times, but I was it doesn't mean a lot to me what the tattoo world thinks of me. I have the 10 tattooers that I truly admire, and their opinion of me means the world, but the rest of I don't need to be cool in the tattoo world. But yeah, and it's, insane. They just bring that up, because now there's the whole loyal to the coil movement. And coil machines, nothing is as romantic as a coil machine. Like it's so beautiful, the simplicity of it, the mechanism. But like, I am at the point now where I'm like, I will use what yields the best results, period, consistently, and like, yes, I have this one fucking Roll-O-Matic machine that it like is the reason tight threes exist. It is the most perfect, flawless thing. I don't know what was in those springs or those coils. There is juju in there. Like, but at the same time, like that machine will like have a bad day. You know what I mean? Like
the humidity
I'd be like, oh my God. Like, yeah, it's like, it's 10 degrees hotter. The machine's not running quite the same. Or like I used it in a different power supply. And so it's like, when the stars align, it's great. But like with a, I use Bishop machines and like cartridges.
That's what I use.
And it's like, it's not as romantic, but it's fucking consistent and it works great, and I can have 10 different, liner groupings, in one tattoo and not even think about it. And so like my tattoos are better, because of that. And, I built a museum case for all my coil machines, like they still mean the world to me, but I don't care. Whatever makes the best tattoo, I'll use it. Yeah.
Same here. I grew up in Iowa with a bunch of farmers, and my dad was a contractor. And there's just something in me that's just got this like mechanic brain, where I'm just super pure function when it comes to it. I've never been romantic about it. I do have machines I'll never sell, and I do get the romance. I don't tattoo with those machines.
Yeah,
I tattoo with a lot of Bishop stuff as well. But to me, it was always just like my dad. It's like, is there a new drill that can drill a hole in concrete faster? I need that.
Yeah.
I got a building to build today, and I treated tattooing like that. Just give me whatever's going to work quick. Not even work quick. I could work as fast with the old stuff. It's just consistency was my problem with the older stuff. Is I didn't have the time, or I didn't have the interest really in tuning machines, and a lot of people really enjoyed that. I was just like pissed, because I had a tattoo to do, and this fucking thing it was perfect last week, So that's what I just went, out of there. But moving and changing, I mean, God, that's life, right? And we live in an era right now where that could not be more apparent with everything that's happening in the world and the changes. And we'll get into some of this in a minute. But yeah, I've always been of that mindset. Let's see here. You said this, and I loved it. Stoicism is not true strength.
Wow. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, gosh,
I could help you with you made a good point.
Yeah,
because I immediately I was like, wait a minute, like, what are you going to do with this? Because I love Stoicism, and I think there's and I'm not a Stoic. I don't practice, but I've read.
By the way,
some of the
now
books.
Stoicism is like a whole philosophical movement.
I think what
but like,
you meant, a Stoic personality is not a strength.
Isn't strength. Yeah, like to be compassionate and to be open and like to be able to communicate. Like communicating is power. You know what I mean? Like being stoic and kind of quiet and brooding and tough is like, you're not the most powerful person in the room. Like that that will not lead to thriving. Like being able to kind of emotionally, if you move people emotionally, that's it. Like you're like any piece of artwork like I've ever made, not always in this chapter of my life. And there's a story about that. Like, if I can make something that makes someone feel something, everything else will fall in place. You know what I mean? Like the money will follow like if I can move people emotionally, that's the goal. But just talking about kids and childhood and careers and stuff. There was, a time in New York when I was doing pretty well in the fine art world, doing better than I ever thought a dirty kid from Louisiana would do. And, selling painting and sculptures. And I had these 2 big galleries that were supporting my work. And I was doing well. I was living what I thought was the dream. But a lot of the work I was making was kind of informed by what would sell. It was like the galleries were like, yeah, that's great. I see what you're toying with over there, but like, just make this. Cause like we have these collectors that are really excited about this stuff. And I was like, okay. Anyway, my wife at the time was pregnant with our first child. And it was a couple months before she was born. And I remember so clearly waking up from this dream. I had a dream that I had died before my daughter was born. And there was she was 12 years old and she was going through my studio and looking at everything that was in my studio, half finished or like getting ready to ship out, as a way to try and get to know this father she had never met. And I was on the other side. I was like in the spirit world, like trying so desperately to like explain myself. I'm like, no, that's not really me. That was just like a commission by this guy who wanted me to make that. I did. And I was like so desperate to like tell her that like, that's not really who your dad was. And I woke up like in a sweat and I was like, fuck it. I don't give a fuck about money. I don't care if I never sell another painting. Everything I make has to be sincere. Like everything I make, some little girl has to be able to look at and be like, my dad made that. And I woke up and I like quit both my galleries at the time, like totally reassessed my whole career. And, you know, that was like 2014. I've made more money since 2014 than I did my entire life cumulatively before that.
From that art you walked away
just
from?
Like from the moment I decided to like, I would not do anything that didn't feel sincere.
Oh, right.
Ended up making me more money than accommodating the audience ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it felt great.
I think some people call that karma.
I guess, I mean, yeah. Or just the fact that like, you know, sincerity always wins, you know, it does. And people can smell it. Like when you make an art, a piece of work that's for someone else or that like is trying to accommodate someone else's expectations, there's no real magic there. There's no real sparkle. You're just a waiter, you know, giving them the burger they ordered. Whereas if you make a piece of art that someone has to kind of like, that's a little bit over their head, you know, that they're like, I don't really understand it, but there's something there. Then like people have to learn something to appreciate what you've made. And if people have to like, reach a little bit over their head to get it, then you're an educator, not an accommodator. You know what I mean? Like you earn their respect because they're like, oh, I'm going to see what Scott makes next. And if I don't get it immediately, I'm going to sit with it because he's usually got something going on. And like, that's a much more powerful position to being like, you know, just fulfilling orders.
Yeah. I mean, and even if, you know, some people do actually make things to serve the pub. You got your pop bands and some of them make a fuckload of money.
Yeah.
So I think and that's fine. You've done better financially since you started following your heart artistically. Yeah. But even if the money hadn't come, fulfillment, like I don't know.
I mean, that's only one metric of success. There's other metrics.
I like the word, use the word fulfillment, right? Yeah. Never happiness, because happiness is happiness comes and goes. I mean, I don't care how rad your life is, you're going to have unhappy and happy times. But fulfillment is a nice word. It's the ability to look back and feel proud of who you are and what you've done with your life.
I mean, that's, you know, like, you know, tattooing as well, like we were talking about, is like, for as difficult and challenging as tattooing can be as a job, like, you know, carving something in somebody's arm that they just, and you see like the electricity that runs through them when they look in the mirror, like it's cool. Like that feels good.
Fuck yeah, it's the best part.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you did that. I'm sure a lot of other people are too.
I mean, yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. Follow your heart, people. Follow that. We all know it. I swear.
All the cliches are true.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, do you really not know what you want to do? Yeah. Be honest.
I mean, yeah.
You know, be honest, because most everyone, if they get quiet enough, is like, actually, there is something I want to do, but it doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
Well, let's explore that.
Try it. Yeah.
That kind of leads to another subject that I find I just can't stop talking about it, dude. It's just like AI world that's coming into to existence, coming into culture. I mean, obviously, it goes everywhere, right? It goes to politics. It goes to, you name a subject, it's probably in it and going to affect it. But as artists, I kind of focus on that, compartmentalize that. And like I told you earlier, I'm kind of working right now with this idea of, well, maybe it's something we don't have to, but an artist can play with as a novel generator, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like I took just an example before you talk. Yeah. I did he's wearing the shirt. Turn around, show him that shirt. So this is something I did for Sullen.
Yeah.
Okay. So I sketched that very roughly.
Yeah.
And then instead of moving forward with it, I put it into this AI generator that turns a sketch into art. And it's a bunch of different versions. And then I went through them and I do a lot of filigree. And there was filigree in the sketch, but then the way it was doing some of it was like totally novel and new. Like even some of it I hadn't even seen in anywhere else. So I was like, that's so interesting. And it was pretty. I mean, none of them were final, like ready to serve. Yeah. They all had clunky bullshit happening in them. I'll probably end up being able to fix that eventually. But these were clunky. So I kind of stole little chunks that I thought were
but you didn't
different.
Steal it because your input like made that happen.
Well, and I kept changing it and stuff. But there was a moment where I was like, is this is this okay? I'm an artist who
okay,
made a leap into a new novel space.
So many opinions.
All right, let's do it.
So much to say. But yeah, the idea of cheating isn't, you can't cheat. Like if you create something new, like the result is the thing, you know what I mean? Like the idea that there might be a tool that makes it easier to get there and make it better is cheating is ridiculous. I mean, I feel like I remember that same feeling of cheating when I first started using like Photoshop to like collage, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm just going to take a picture of this skull and take this eagle sketch and then like Photoshop it together and then trace it. And they're like, oh, that's cheating. And it's like, fucking what? You know what I mean? Like, but then when I first started tattooing, like we drew everything on. Like we didn't even have a fucking copier to make it temper. So if I drew an eagle on your chest and you're like, I want it bigger, I got to wash it off and like make it so that is Thermofax cheating then? You know, like is Photoshop cheating? Like I really think it's a tool. And it took me a while to arrive at this because I, like anyone else when it first came out, was like, oh God, I'm obsolete. You know, like I'm getting replaced by robots. But then you see, and it's like, they can't generate any new ideas. It's just rendering, you know, and same thing in not wanting to get left behind and taking some deep breaths through that panic and being like, okay, like this is a tool. Like, how do I use this as a tool? You know, like I found this way, you know, like I can send you a link to like the kind of stuff that I've been using, but there's a way. So I took, you know, a folder of 200 of my line drawings, you know, and then, you know, used that, created an AI you know, like generator based on that. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm like, here's, you know, you can input text or a drawing. Like I'll sketch a scorpion and be like, okay, here's a scorpion sketch. Now render that in this style. And it looks like the 200 drawings that I did to do that. So everything that was input there came from me. Like there's no part of it that's cheating. I'm not borrowing from anything.
In that case.
Yeah.
But there's other cases where the people aren't using their own art for the generator. But it's getting the information from other artists around the world is where it's getting.
But I mean, look at like hip hop. They'll sample other songs and then remix it and turn it into this thing. Like, does that mean it's not a new song? It's the same thing. Like, no, you just take parts of this and assemble that. I think it's changing, you know, which we have to keep up with. But I do think it comes back to like what art really is, which is new ideas. Like if you're just rendering the same thing over and over, then like, yeah, AI is going to place you. But if you're actually pushing boundaries and like trying to come up with new ideas, then like you'll always stay ahead of AI.
Well, there are some that say that right now, currently, and who knows I have a theory that they have models that they don't allow us to download on our phones. Let's just go off the one we got on our phones. They're talking about this one right now, and how it does it in 3 seconds. I can't put, you know, it searched the entire body of history and gave me an answer in 3 seconds. It's scary, weird, but they say it will reach a point, and this isn't necessarily sentience, which I believe the Turing test has been passed.
Right.
Personally, I've listened to some podcasts from dudes in that space. I think it's been passed. I'm not making everyone panic. It's my personal opinion. It's a big argument. It's not settled here. It's under debate. But let's say it hasn't. I'm not talking about sentience. I'm just talking about it will start generating its own stuff and quit dragging from historical reference points. So at this point, you maybe potentially have a AI machine that is generating brand new novel ideas that have no echoes or shadows from human history.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't say that's happening.
But like with tattooing, like whatever the last tattoo you did, I bet you donut, you know, somebody came in and they're like, okay, like I want this eagle, you know, again, they're like, you know, like, do you want color in black or gray? And they're like, well, what do you think? You know, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, like I'm doing, you know, I want a Japanese sleeve, like, you know, I don't know, peonies or cherry blossoms. Like, what do you prefer? You know, like the thing about tattooing that I think gives us a bit of job security is that like the human, like the interaction between two humans is a huge
100%.
You know, like,
Scott, I'm not even going there. Like we'll never disagree on that.
Yeah.
You know, this idea that you stand in a tube and it can do a bodysuit on you. I'm not saying
but I wouldn't want that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's clients out there. Maybe there's whippersnappers that would be used. But like, I don't want that. Like, it's still like going to get tattooed is fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like because like I get tattooed by people I love. I look like the bathroom wall of some shitty bar. There's like fucking dicks and mom jokes all over me. You know, but like I get tattooed by people who I like I want a piece of you. You know, it's not just like, oh, I want a rose and a clock and a lion. You know, like like, no, I want to spend 3 hours with you. And I want to come away with something that reminds me of like, fuck, I spent 3 hours with him that one time. It was so cool. And I don't know. I have to.
That's you.
Yeah, that's me. I
So
don't
you
know.
got
But I'm the old guy.
You got a
Like,
7-year-old that's spending all day with VR goggles
But
on.
you know what? But
And he wants to look like his avatar when he's 18. And there's a tube he can stick his arm in, and he pulls it out, and he looks like the guy on the video game.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I'm just being devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm on your side.
I mean, believe me, look, I made a lot of money doing tattoo designs in Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? Like,
cool.
like that, I've sold tattoos to avatars before, and it was great. But I mean, in my kids, just seeing and kind of learning about the world they're growing up in, I mean, I have to have hope. I have to. But like, I really see them being aware that like the phone isn't reality. You know what I mean? Like my kids really, I feel like they really know the narrative of like, oh, like that's not healthy. Like it's not real. Like they'll put it down and be like, I need to go outside. Like this isn't, and
my kids too.
I hope there's like an intuition that becomes
they're
like
developing a
compass.
new I don't know what's that called when you have to learn your ecosystem around you so you'll get it. If I lived in an environment where tigers were around when I was a kid, I'd be very aware of where to go at night and stuff. But they almost have a defense mechanisms that are probably more adept than my own, because this is a new thing to me. I didn't build that shit when I was a kid. Yeah, I think they will have that. Not all of them. You're always going to have a kid that still walks out at night and get eaten by a tiger, even though all the kids knew not to go do that.
But to get back to the AI thing, I think AI is going to like make rendering much more efficient. You'll be able to present 20 different ideas to your client instead of just 2. I think it'll speed up a lot of the process. But I do think at the end of the day, it's another human's like taste and like kind of concept that, that will always be valuable. Like it's
well, I'll add to it because I arrived. It's funny. You're like, I thought about this a lot, and this is where you arrived. I thought about it a lot. I arrived in the same place. Here's my prediction. These things are going to, they're already making Jimi Hendrix songs. It's so novel and cool. I listen to them like, this is fucking amazing. And know, so it's like this new shiny toy, and everyone's very excited about it. And, there are going to be people with giant LCD screens at a wall in their house, and AI is going to be, it'll be art moving, generated by AI. I mean, it's psychedelically cool. It's much crazier and more engaging than a painting I could paint. So, but this is the novelty, right? And then you go forward, this novelty sort of wears off. Why? Because everybody can have it, okay? Maybe with a little bit of money. You can have these things, and they're so cheaply made by AI that it's easy to get a new fake Jimi Hendrix song. It's easy to get new
it's not
fake
like substance. It's like,
well, that's why I think analog art
yeah,
is going to return with a vengeance. And the real ballers that want to have real things in their life, the value of analog art will skyrocket, right? That's the real move.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's fun and it's sparkly, and, but in the same way, like, yeah, cake is delicious, but like your body just knows if you're like, we're not going to eat cake all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to go outside and feel the grass under your feet. Yeah. Like, there's a reason why, like, even though AI exists, beaches are powerful, because like sitting with your toes in your sand is like a real, like I don't know. I think we're excited about it, but I think the kids are going to pull it back in an analog direction. I have to.
Well, I mean, I guess part of this is therapy for me, because I'm really, I feel akin to you for the time you've been doing tattooing. And I feel like we're a lot alike. And it feels good that you agree with me there, because I'm fucking, sometimes I get a little freaked out, like, and not for my own career. My ship sailed. I have enough set up. I'll keep doing what I do, but I do look at this beautiful craft and just art in general and music. And I'm like, is it all, I get scared that it might start going away, and that human aspect, the sweat, the blood, the tears.
I mean, believe me, I know. I mean, like my library means the world to me, the books I've collected over my career. And, sometimes like, kids come in the shop and I'm like, these are books. Let me show you. This was like before Google Image. You could open the page, and I'll pull like references out, and they think I'm fucking magic. They're like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing. I was like, it's in a book. It's not on Google Image because no one has scanned this book and archived it. But like, yeah, it's.
Well, there is a lot of stuff in books that they haven't made it to the web.
It's fucking, yeah.
Especially if you got the old rare ones.
Yeah, no, there's some, yeah, that's what I mean. Like the whippersnappers still think I'm like a wizard for like pulling out a book every now and then. Yeah.
Wild times we're in, man. I do a lot of hallucinogenics. Not a lot. I shouldn't say it that way. I haven't throughout my lifetime. Nowadays, I take them intermittently when I feel the need for like what's more spiritual growth. It's a teaching medicine to me.
We're in California. That's what we do. Yeah.
But you too, maybe I'm hearing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't if I have to be social after 10 p.m., I just nibble on mushrooms and it's great.
It's great for that.
Yeah.
That's 100%. But my point I'm making is I think nowadays I look at life like it's trippier than some of my hardest acid trips. It's more if you really just bring it all in, what's happening at light speed around us. I'm like, this is actually trippier than taking a hit of acid.
I mean, I remember I had this realization like years ago, like 90, but I remember when I was a little kid playing Legend of Zelda, and when you're walking around on Zelda, there's a little map up top that like shows you where on the level you are. And I remember playing that and being like, God, imagine if in real life there was like this little map that like showed you where you're going. And it was like, 10 years ago, I was like, oh my God, that's what GPS is. It's the little Zelda map, but like in our life. Yeah.
Wild times, man. I also think about like, man, and specifically to tattooing. I'm like, if I could, now that I know a little bit of the history, and I think can see maybe where it's going, changing in a certain way. I think we hit the golden fucking moment because we got the taste of that early street shop.
Yeah.
Bike. I worked for biker. Like we all have our stories, and then the Renaissance movement, and now we're in this like unknown frontier. So that was a good time to be a tattooer, man.
It was great. No, I mean, I fully sober in acknowledging that like my relevance to the tattoo world was like mostly timing and geography.
Yeah.
Like if I had come up now, nobody'd ever heard of me. I'd get
too.
I'd get lost in all that. But I was, at a time when the world was just starting to pay attention to tattooing. It was just kind of coming out of the underground. I was the tattoo guy in downtown New York at a time when downtown New York was the center of the world, So like, yeah, when Marc Jacobs wants a tattoo or Heath Ledger or like any of these people wants a tattoo, they're like, oh, Scott's the guy, Whereas now, like there's a million guys. But it's, it's funny, we mentioned earlier Tony Hawk, who, has become a really good friend and client. And, but I've always thought about him like as such an amazing reference. It's like Tony Hawk didn't start skateboarding because he thought it would turn into a career. He's just like, I just love this thing. Like there's an electricity here and there's a power to it. And it's like, I fucking love it. And he like had a talent for it, and it's the same thing. Like, like when we started tattooing, you were not choosing like the righteous path, like tattooing was fully accepting, like I will never exist in mainstream society. Like you were choosing the road of darkness if you became a tattoo artist. Like you were really deciding to like, I'm not going to participate. And then all of a sudden the world was like, wait, we think you guys are cool. And, but I think about him and like skateboarding, then the whole world liked skateboarding. It's kind of like that. Where like we were tattooers at a time when like there was no future in tattooing. And then all of a sudden there was. And it's like, oh my God, now the whole world loves tattooing also.
That's so true. I was, same boat.
Yeah.
I'm telling people, I don't care what happens. I was just, punk rock like you, anarchist.
We're just trying to piss
You're
off our
not
parents.
worried about money? No, I'm not. You can live in the streets,
Dude, I
maybe.
remember, you want to talk about, I remember one time being in the shop. This was in New York when I first moved there. And this like skater buddy of mine, it was like after hours, we were just tattooing our friends. And I was like, oh, what are you getting? And and he was getting this tattoo of a broken skateboard. And it said, less is more, stay true, stay poor. And I looked at that and all of a sudden realized, I was like, oh God, like, I actually don't want to be poor. You know what I mean? But it was then that I realized, I was like, oh, like we're all these punk rock kids projecting shame on success. Yeah. I was like, I got to change that. I was like, I'm going to say it out loud. I don't like rich people because I wish I was one, like I'm fucking jealous, so I'm like trying so hard to, like to say that wealth is is like a vice or, like a morality issue. But I'm like, I actually just wish I had rent every month, like it would be nice to be comfortable, but it would like, that was a switch where like, I didn't feel guilty for like trying to make a living anymore.
I met a number of shitty people in my life and some of them are really rich.
Yeah.
And some of them are dirt poor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's
like,
people that are good at being rich and people that are shitty but rich.
Yeah,
like,
there's good people in every level. Yeah, and that was always a thing, back when I opened my second location, I caught some flag. Like it was like a evil thing to do to have two shops.
Like, why is it shameful to have ambition? Yeah.
Because it's like, what is your, so what's it really about for you, Aaron? Oh, we thought you were a core tattooer. Now we know. We fucking knew it.
To me, why is it like, that's like blue collar mentality. I mean, I had that, I really had to like take deep breaths through it. You know, like when I first started doing fine art work, you know, I'd been in the trenches of like street shop tattooing for so many years. And then I had this art show and it sold out, you know, like, and it made this like real grown up money. And I was like so perplexed. I was like, but wait, how could I possibly make that much money? Because I didn't suffer. You know what I mean? You know, like I just had this like working class mentality where it's like, if you want this much money, you have to suffer this much. You know, like the idea of enjoying something that also was valuable and produced money was just like, well, no, that's wrong. And if that's cheating, you know? And I was like, oh no, like it's okay. It's okay to make money.
Yeah. I had my own aha moment with that too, where I realized in some subtle way I was in resistance to success because I thought it meant I was something, it had no meaning at all. What I did with it was what meant. It was years ago for me, but I had that moment too, because that's how we grew up. To be successful was to be on the other side of the fence. We're over here and they're over there. Let's stay with, you know, it's that. But you don't see that in the tattooers coming in nowadays. I do believe that, it's not a big ballsy risk of being, you know what I mean? It's more of a glamour and it's accepted. So you're illustrating a point that when we did it, you really had to be willing to just die for it kind of vibe. Like, fuck it. I don't care. Let's go. Yeah. You know, that's changed. And that's fine. It's changed. I'm not trying to act like we're cooler than those people, but it was an interesting time. Different than anything. It'll never happen again. Yeah. Cool part of tattoo history.
I mean, who knows? There might be some weird, creative, like underground movement happening now that we are dismissing as like fringe culture that, you know, will come into the spotlight in 10 years and be like, fuck yeah.
Try my best. I tell myself every day, don't be the old guy doing that, Aaron. And maybe I accidentally will, but I'll try. And you will too. I'm sure. Try your best not to allow that to happen. Whatever's new, bring it. Let me see it. Show the old guy. I'm into it. What are you kids up to? Well, brother, this has been fucking awesome. Getting to know you better. I knew as I watched some of your work, and obviously your tattooing's amazing, but speaking especially, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this guy. He's gonna be one of my new friends, and I know we're gonna connect on many levels. So I want to just say thank you for spending some time with me today and sharing your history and your knowledge and your experiences through this wild tattoo life you're still living. And relationship.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
No, you're not. Let me ask you that. People ask me that all the time. I'm a 30-year tattooer. Like, when's it end?
Right. I don't know.
That's what I say.
When, carpal tunnels and blindness. I don't know. Like,
that's kind of how I do it too.
And then, you know, and who knows, even if my hands get shaky, you know, like Tom DeVita, he was trembling towards the end, and I still wish I had gotten tattooed by him in his later years. Like, his stuff was great. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna ride this ride as long as I can.
Good. Well, I for one will be happy if you do. And thank you for coming in today. Well, let me one more question. Is there anything next? I always like to throw it out there. I don't know if you have a project or something you're excited about. I mean, you already have a lot going on here, but maybe.
I mean, you know, kind of like you know, we're doing the podcast thing and trying to like figure out how to move beyond just the Instagram posts. You know, like I'm so frustrated and annoyed that Instagram kind of owns tattooing. If there's any tech nerds out there, please replace it. Please do something better. But, you know, I'm trying to like put out the emotionality of what we do in as powerful a way as the aesthetic. And, you know, I think you're a great example of like trying to branch out and
you figure some angles in that arena. You call me, please. I have the same desire.
Yeah.
You know, I've had some wild, we don't have enough time today, but I've had some wild ideas how to do that too. But I haven't quite figured it out, but it would be cool to somehow create something more analog that can't be duplicated so quickly and so easily digitally, whether it be through photography or whatever. I don't know. There's just it's just a tickle of a idea at this point.
Yeah.
But I do think something's coming where it's going to be this cool thing that isn't just flashing around on your Instagram screen.
Change is the only constant. The only thing you can be sure of is it won't be this way in 5 years.
Especially nowadays, dude.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you?
On Instagram, like at Scott Campbell. It's kind of
the irony.
Yeah. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I see what's going on.
For now, people.
Yeah, for now.
Maybe tomorrow he's gone.
Maybe it'll be smoke signals. Maybe I'll rent a blimp. Yeah, I don't know.
I love it. Well, at Scott Campbell.
Yep.
Simple enough. You can find him there. You can shoot him a message if you want to get tattooed, or if you want to figure out what he's up to.
Divorce advice, let me know.
He's got some good divorce advice. I'm not kidding. I'm not even joking when I say that. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
That listens to the show. Thank you. I think Scott agrees with me when I say that it's like a weird thing to put yourself out there and expose yourself on a very intimate level to just whoever's watching. It's different than a tattoo client, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And
if you guys have made it this to minute 47 or whatever this is, like, God bless you. Thanks for being here.
If you're still here, I'm a fan of you.
Yeah.
Please DM me and tell me.
We owe you a
did.
drink. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Peace out.
Chats and Tats with Aaron, Della Vedova.